Good morning, everybody. I got a good video today. I'm gonna be talking about I got a good history on electronic weapons, and I'm also gonna be talking about electrosensitivity. I'm gonna start out with this. We got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm gonna get right into it. And sorry about there was a confusion about the interview Sunday, so we had to reschedule. If you are interested in doing an interview with me or getting your story out there, please contact us at hollyspunk@gmail.com. They cannot break me because they did not make me. Gang stalkers naturally rise in the morning with plans to ruin someone's day. They are the gatekeepers to our prison. They work in the background of our lives, and some of them we never see. We become broken-hearted people. We've lost our freedom, our loved ones, our good name. We're held captive behind invisible walls, secretly put in place as confines to keep us under scrutiny and control. Although we can heal once we surrender our role in life, most of us will continue to kick and scream and balk at this new option. Naturally, life will never be as we once knew it. But what higher calling is there than to keep someone from committing suicide? Letting another target know that they're not alone can be enough to save the day. The feeling of belonging is so empowering, it can be the difference between life and death. By not hurting myself today, I can make a difference in another person's life. Okay. I'm going to share the screen and get into the information. So we're going to start out with what is electrosensitivity? How did radio frequency? So electrosensitivity. I'm gonna go into this, and I'm gonna go into some good history, some good information about weapons and stuff. Okay, so typical impairments is headaches, disturbed sleep, EMF. Uh, EMF radiation can cause electromagnetic frequency radiation, and radio frequency and electromagnetic fields can cause electrosensitivity. If you're being hit with these weapons, you might experience headaches, general sharp pains, disturbed sleep, light sleep, unable to get to sleep, waking early, full awake, heart palpitations, arrhythmia, anxiety, depression, anger, mood swings, pain and tingling in limbs, blurry vision, gritty eyes. I got gritty eyes all the time. Ringing in the ears, I get that. Tinnitus, get that. Short-term memory loss, I get that. Concentration, I get a lot of these. Concentration loss, nausea, dizziness, asthma attacks, coughs, sinus problems, muscular weakness, muscular failure, acne, skin rashes, brown patches, urinary urgency, bladder problems, smelly urine, stomach problems, increased sensitivity to chemicals, light, noise, smells, touch. Impairments and symptoms often occur immediately after electromagnetic exposure, headache, or muscle spasm. When somebody nearby switches their cell phone on, it can even affect you. Over the minutes and hours of low growing memory loss, tiredness, or headaches after an hour or two in Wi-Fi radiation. Perhaps 12 to 16 hours after heavy exposure, nausea, dizziness, muscle failure, cramps. Over months or years of frequent electromagnetic exposure, neurological cancer effects, tissue tumor growth, domestic cordless phone, power lines, cables, cell phone towers, neighbors' Wi-Fi. Impairment symptoms depend on genetic factors, presence of metals in the body, previous exposure, adaptation to the body to stress from environmental toxins. That's a disability impairing the person's ability to function fully in society. So anyway, I'm going to go to the history. Well, not the history. I'm going to go to the weapons part. Okay. Electromagnetic warfare. And this is some good history right here. And then I might just go back and touch since I went so fast on the other. Electromagnetic warfare, weapons, weather modification, climate change, geoengineering, electromagnetic warfare. From the 1950s, the military have used low-level electromagnetic radiation in electromagnetic warfare. Okay, electrosensitivity specific symptoms caused by electromagnetic warfare in 1953 to 1980s. Governments in the USSR and USA developed microwave war to cause specific electrosensitivity symptoms. These were first used against the U.S. Embassy in Moscow from 1953 and were the aim of the secret U.S. Pandora project of the 1970s. Later, they were probably a feature of the USSR's woodpecker signal from July 4th, 1976. Electrosensitivity symptoms were recorded from electronic transmissions by people in Eugene, Oregon in 1978, the women of Greenham Common, England in 1980s, and in the troubles of Northern Ireland in most wars since the 1990s. And see this link right here. It gives a link. CNN Special Report 1985 about changing behavior. CNN Special Report 1985 electromagnetic frequency. CNN admits 60 gigahertz 5G is a weapon in 1985. I looked, that video is not there. Aaron and Melissa Dykes, is still unsolved mystery of the Eugene signal. This article is very good. It shares links to back up what they're saying. USSR microwave irradiation of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, 1953 to 1976. See, this has been going on. From 1953 until 1976, the USSR beamed microwaves at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow at 1,000 to 240,000 microwatts, using 2.5 to 4 gigahertz beams. The USA was unaware of this until 1959. In 1975, the USSR increased the power with two different transmitters. Embassy staff suffered typical specific electrosensitivity symptoms, and some developed cancers. Many staff had elevated white cell counts and leukemias, with two ambassadors dying of cancer. In 1976, the U.S. fitted aluminum screening to the windows of their Moscow embassy to protect it against non-thermal microwave health effects. The SSR did not admit to irradiating the U.S. embassy until 1976. Russians admit microwave shot at U.S. Embassy. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, February 26, 1976. Such practices arguably violate four separate articles of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Immunities, and that came from legal implications of Soviet microwave bombardment of the U.S. Embassy, Boston College International Law. In 1953, the Soviets started research into non-thermal health effects in a special laboratory at the Institute of Work Hygiene and Occupational Diseases, Academy of Medical Sciences of USSR. Okay, the Moscow Signal epidemiological study, 40 years, and this is just links. All right, here we go into the Czechoslovakian research, 1960 and on. A department of high frequency was established in 1960 at the Institute of Industrial Hygiene and Occupational Diseases in Prague, the Czechoslovakia. This department was concerned solely with problems of EM waves and non-ionizing spectrum in relation to a man being unfavorably affected. Typical symptoms are pains in the head and eyes, fatigue connected with overall weakness, dizziness, and vertigo when standing for a long period. Sleep at night is restive and superficial. There's sleepiness during the day. Exposed individuals are subject to change in mood. They become irritated to the point of becoming intolerable. Hypochondriac reactions are manifested along with the feeling of fear. Sometimes those affected feel nervous tension or, on the contrary, mental depression connected with the inhibition of intellectual functions, mainly decreased memory. And it gives another link. U.S. Project Pandora for microwave weapons, 1965 to 1970. After the USA discovered in 1959 that the USSR had been irradiating their embassy in Moscow, there was a move to investigate the use of microwaves as weapons. Studies show that non-thermal microwave exposure produced typical specific electrosensitivity symptoms which could disable victims. In 1965, Kozlov of the USA Defense Advanced Research Project, DARPA, admitted the Soviets had hundreds of studies showing low-level radio frequency bowel effects. These effects were typical specific electrosensitivity symptoms, such as excessive fatigue, coordination loss, changes in blood pressure and heart rate, biochemical changes in blood, and some loss of sensory ability. Analysis of the Moscow signal led to Project Pandora, the first U.S. research program into the offensive use of health and psychological effects of low-level microwave radiation. It was 70 to 80% funded by the military. Studies demonstrated how it induced heart seizures, create leaks in the blood-brain barrier, and produce auditory hallucinations. Despite attempts to hide Project Pandora, memorandum of Richard Cicero, director of DARPA, confirmed that the program's initial goal was to discover whether a carefully controlled microwave signal can control the mind. He urged that these studies be made for potential weapon applications. Dr. Millian Zared informed the CIA about Soviet research. For non-thermal radiations, they believe the electromagnetic field induced by microwave environment effects on the cell membrane, and this results in increased excitability or increase of level excitation of nerve cells. With repeated or continued exposure, the increased excitability leads to a state of exhaustion of the cells of the cerebral cortex. And Keeler, remote mind control technology. That's where that came from. Following public outcry, Congress forbade further research and demanded these projects be terminated across the board. A former CIA agent, however, later revealed that the program merely become more covert with a high element of deniability built into them. Dave Guy, Some Aspects of Anti-Personnel Electromagnetic Weapons, Synopsis for International Committee of Red Cross. In 1977, the U.S. Navy held a secret conference on undesirable electromagnetic effects. Sharon Weinberger, Secret History of Diplomats and Invisible Weapons, the Daily Mail, August 25th, 2017. All kinds of links here to read too. And I'm going to try to share the link. Just remind me if I forget to put in the description. The Eugene signal caused specific EHS symptoms to people like Walter Daprowski. 150 documented complaints were made. This is Eugene Signal, Oregon, 1978. The source was later said to be a U.S. Navy wireless base at Dixon, California, but this was denied. It sent out a 4.75 megahertz signal with 1100 hertz pulses at 500,000 watts. Even Clifford Schrock, an investigator who worked for the CIA and NSA, admitted to headaches. So you got four dated records of that. So look, you got the Eugene Register Guard, the Oregon Journal, the Eugene Register Guard, and W.H. Bauer and Richard Surton. They all did papers on this. It's just showing it's real. U.S. Marine Corps Non-Lethal Electromagnetic Weapons Project, 1980 to 1983. From 1980 to 83, Eldon Byrd, Naval Surface Weapons Office, ran the Marine Corps Non-Lethal Electromagnetic Weapons Project aimed at the Armed Forces Radiobiology Research Institute in Bethsaida, Maryland. He was commissioned to develop electromagnetic devices for purposes including riot control, clandestine operations, and hostile removal. Many of his experiments produced typical electrosensitivity symptoms. We were looking at electroactivity in the brain and how to influence, Byrd said. He conducted experiments on animals, even on himself, to see if brainwaves would move in sync with waves impinging on them from the outside. He found that they would, but the effect was short-lived. By using very low EMR, Byrd found that he could induce the brain to release behavior-regulating chemicals. We could put animals into a stupor by hitting them with frequencies. We got chick brains in vitro to dump 80% of natural opioids into their brains. On the controversy about reproductive hazards to video display terminal operators, Byrd wrote of alterations in brain functions of animals exposed to low-intensity fields. Offsprings of exposed animals exhibits a drastic degradation of intelligence later in life. Couldn't learn easy tasks, indicating a very definite irreversible damage to the central nervous system of the fetus, where VDT operators were exposed to weak fields. There were clusters of miscarriages and birth defects with evidence of central nervous system damage to the fetus. Byrd also wrote of experiments where behavior of animals was controlled by exposure to weak electromagnetic fields. At a certain frequency and power intensity, they can make the animal purr, lay down, and roll over. Byrd ran a project using magnetic fields to cause certain brain cells in rats to release histamine. In humans, this was called instant flu-like symptoms and produced nausea. Been there before. These fields were extremely weak. They were undetectable. The effects were non-lethal and reversible. You could disable a person temporarily. It would have been like a stun gun. Byrd said he was told his work would be unclassified unless it works. Because it worked, he suspects that the program went black. Other scientists tell similar tales of research on the EMR turning top secret once successful results were achieved. U.S. irradiation of women at Greenham Common, England, 1984. In the fall of 1984, women protesters at the U.S. Air Force Base at Greenham Common in England were subjected to beams of non-thermal microwave irradiation after they started to be more active following the arrival of cruise missiles in March 1984. They suffered typical specific electrosensitivity symptoms, which were documented at the time. These women suffered unusual patterns of illness, which ranged from severe headaches, drowsiness, menstrual bleeding at abnormal times or postmenopause to bouts of temporary paralysis, faulty speech coordination, and in one case, apparent circulatory failure requiring hospitalization. Other documented symptoms include vertigo, retinal bleeding, burnt face even at night, nausea, sleep disturbances and palpitations, lack of concentration, disorientation, loss of memory, irritability, and a sense of panic and non-panic situations. Kim Bealey, electromagnetic pollution, a little-known health hazard, a new means of control. Preliminary report. That's where that came from. Doctors are compiling a report on the condition of a number of Greenhound common peace women who have had symptoms which are consistent with the known neurophysiological effects of electromagnetic waves or low-level radiation. These symptoms range from headache and dizziness to difficulties of a concentration or memory. Fears of electronic zapping have led peace women at the camp to keep a record of ill effects reported by their groups over the past year. Claims that this revealed pattern of illness will be presented by the peace women at a media briefing in London today. They will report at least 40 women present at different points around the 9-mile perimeter of the American cruise missile base have experienced similar symptoms at the same time. Stephen Farrell, chairman of the Medical Campaign Against Nuclear Weapons, said yesterday, "We are now compiling evidence about the complaints made by the women. There's obviously a great deal of interest in what it says. It seems feasible." The Greenhound women claim that the meter tests outside the camp taken at times when women have experienced the symptoms have shown a marked increase in background microwave signals. The symptoms are more pronounced when cruise missile convoys leave the house. Women peace campers at Greenham Common claim they are being attacked by U.S. electronic weapon system from within the U.S. Air Base. They believe that some form of electromagnetic wave or signals being directed at them is responsible for a number of illnesses they have suffered. Symptoms range from mild headaches to drowsiness to bouts of temporary paralysis. In one case, an apparent circulatory failure, which required emergency team treatment. Women also complained of sharp pains and problems with speech coordination. A team of doctors from Medical Campaign Against Nuclear Weapons are compiling a report on the condition of women affected. The women first noticed a pattern of illness emerging in 1984. They discounted water, food poisoning, and to start suspect interference from inside base. They found that women at different points around the camp appeared to have similar symptoms at the same time, even when they were not in contact with each other. They believe there's a deliberate intent to make life difficult for them and drive them away. Electronic weapons are known to have been used by security forces on a number of occasions. The Americans are reported to have ultrasound to disorient, demoralize their enemies during the Vietnam War, and a number of American police forces are believed to have carried out trials with infrasound generators mounted on the back of the truck. The high-intensity, low-frequency pressure waves are produced or cause vomiting, nausea, and other range of disturbances to induce fits on those who are subjected to them. American medical groups have protested against the proposed use of these weapons for microwave riot control. Microwave radiation is also believed to have been used as a weapon at various times. The most celebrated instance was the irradiation of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The women at Greenhound Commons suspect that more than one type of frequency radiation is being used against them. They say symptoms vary from time to time to reflect what takes place on the base. Large numbers of women have complained of sudden feelings of extreme tiredness shortly before major events such as the Department of Crew Missile Convoy, other occasions. We have conducted a number of tests around the base in cooperation with journalists and organizations. Reading taken with a wide-range signal showed markings increased in background signal level near one of the women's camps at the time they claimed to be experiencing ill effects. Microwave attack on personnel, 1990s. The National Security Agency confirms there's intelligence information of 2012 associating the hostile country to which Mr. Beck traveled in the late 1990s with a high-powered microwave system weapon that may have the ability to weaken, intimidate, or kill an enemy over time without leaving evidence. The 2012 intelligence information indicated this weapon is designed to bathe the target's living quarters in microwaves, causing numerous effects, including damaged nervous system. That came from the National Security Agency, October 16, 2014. Here's some patents. In 2002, U.S. scientists invented a method of encoding and transmitting speech by means of a radio frequency. The patent report states the intention provides a new and useful encoding for speech on the RF carrier, such that speech will be intelligible by a human subject by means of RF hearing demodulated phenomenon. Patent numbers are right there. U.S. 6, 470, 214, B1. U.S. 6, 587, 729, B2. The lead inventor, Jim O'Gwen, explained in the Air Force memorandum how the power of radio frequency signals could be modulated to replicate the amplitude frequency characteristics of audible speech input and thermally induced nerve signals that result in hearing of the transmitted and coded speech in the brain, which I hear 24/7. Here we go. Duncan talked about this in his book. U.S. Navy, Medusa incapacitation microwave weapon. A weapon prototype for U.S. Marine Corps was developed in 2004 at the cost of $100,000 by the U.S. company Waveband Corporation. The weapon code name Medusa, or Mob Excess Deterrent using silent audio, was intended to be small enough to fit in a car, causing temporary incapacitating effect with a low probability of fatality or permanent injury. The weapon caused the microwave audio effect. As Lynn said, it was suggested used in Havana from 2016, creating rapid microwave pulses in the brain, causing a shockwave inside the skull. According to specification of the contract, the microwave weapon would be portable, require low power, have a controlling radius, be able to switch from crowd to individual coverage, cause a temporary incapacitating effect, have a low probability of fatality or permanent injury, cause no damage to property, and have a low probability of affecting a friendly personnel. Lee Lev Sadovic, Waveband's former president, said the effects of MAE were disorientation and the impression of hearing sounds. And that there's three links to that talking about that. Microwave sonic weapons. The effect of microwaves producing sound pressures in the brain, known as the auditory effect or the Frey effect, was discovered in 1962, have been developed extensively in U.S. research since then. This included the U.S. Medusa project. Medusa Phase Summary Report 2004. Objective of phase effort. The main goal of phase 1 project was to design and build a breadboard prototype of a temporary personnel incapacitation system called Medusa. This non-lethal weapon is based on well-established microwave auditory effect. The microwave auditory effect results in a strong sound sensation in the human head when it's irradiated with specifically selected microwave pulses at low energy. Through the combination of pulse parameters and pulse power, it's possible to raise the auditory sensation to the discomfort level, deterring personnel from entering a protected perimeter or, if necessary, temporary incapacitating particular individuals. Dr. Lee Sadovic of Sierra Nevada Corporation noted there are health risks, especially brain damage from high-intensity shockwave created by a microwave pulse. James Lynn in 2008 said of a microwave sonic weapon, "I would worry what other health effects it is having. You might see neural damage." And here's some links right here. Microwave ray gun controls the crowd with noise. 2008. The microwave scream inside your skull. 2008. Microwave weapon will rain pain from the sky. 2009. Weapons grade. How modern warfare gave birth to our high-tech world. That's a book. Sharon Weinberg, The Other Medusa, a microwave sound weapon. Wired, August 2007. I'm reading links here. U.S. Sonic Blaster sold to China. All right, here are pulsed RF weapons, the Havana syndrome. What I like to say, the TI syndrome, because it was tried out on them long before that. Likely microwave weapon attacks. In 2017, there are reports of illness at Havana, Cuba, caused by electromagnetic radiation or microwave guns or sound waves. 24 embassy staff suffered hearing loss, dizziness, nausea, and had to be withdrawn. Canadians were also involved. Specific people in specific parts of the rooms were targeted. Some psychologists proposed mass hysteria, but physical changes were found in the ears and brains of those diplomats involved. Another proposal has been a chemical attack. Another one has been a sonic attack. Since ultrasound used in the brain for therapeutic purposes never causes white matter tract problems, it's now regarded as likely caused by microwave attacks. For fMRI brain scans showing damage caused by microwaves. See functional brain MRI in patients complaining of electrohypersensitivity after long-term exposure to electromagnetic fields. New items, and these are just links. Brain abnormalities found in the victim's sonic attack. Canadian diplomat in Cuba also suffering hearing damage. Mystery of sonic weapon attacks in U.S. Embassy in Cuban deepens. Mass hysteria may explain sonic attacks in Cuba, says top neurologist. New audio adds to mystery of attacks on U.S. diplomats. Weaponized microwave might be behind alleged sonic attacks in Cuba. Mass hysteria or mass microwave weapons. What's behind the sonic attacks? Dangerous sounds. What Americans heard in Cuba attacks. And I'm going to go on. These are just links you can get. After going to this link, I will share. U.S. State Department stated in an email to citizens in China, a U.S. government employee in China recently reported subtle and vague but abnormal sensations of sound and pressure. The employee reported experiencing abnormal sensations of sound and pressure. As with the Cuba incident, this is likely microwave sonic effects, long used in electronic warfare rather than purely sonic effects, which have not shown white matter trauma. See under Cuba 2017 fMRI brain scan showing brain damage from microwaves and U.S. scientists noting the brain damage. James Lynn, an engineering professor at University of Chicago, Illinois, thought the effects might have come from microwaves. He produced a sonic signal from microwaves in a lab and found that the threshold for level for perception microwaves cause a pressure inside the head interpreted as a sound. If you increase it to a super threshold level, I have no doubt it could produce serious damage. He said, I think that's the most likely scenario. The use of microwaves as a potential weapon has precedent in the Cold War when American officials discovered the U.S. Embassy in Moscow was being bombarded with them. And I can't get an MRI because I got shrapnel in my eye from when I was shot. So that sucks. Um, and here's a couple links: mysterious noise and illnesses and terrors of the Cold War. Microwave weapons no longer conspiracy theory. Now deployed in China. And you could just click on these links. Some links go nowhere, though. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them don't have nothing in them, but a lot of them do. U.S. diplomats, Beijing and Shanghai, 2018. Two diplomats from the U.S. Embassy in Beijing and one from the U.S. Consulate in Shanghai complained of symptoms in July 2018, those dizziness, tinnitus, and nausea. And I was going to pause this right now, and I will come back. I paused the screen sharing. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I got a call. I'm trying to figure out how to unpause this. Oh, okay. 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 Two diplomats tonight. Microwave attacks, brain injury, sound attack, fear spread in China as more Americans evacuated. More Americans evacuated from China over mysterious ailments. New York Times. More U.S. diplomats suffer sonic attacks. Times of London. All right, here we go. Some more. U.S. diplomats in four countries, 2018. The Associated Press report 26 Americans have been medically confirmed to have been injured in wave incidents. Diplomats who have served in at least 7 cities in 4 countries have sought tested. James C. Lynn of University of Illinois being described as a diplomat as possibly arriving from microwave beams. And he said the high intensity beams could have well caused diplomats to experience not just loud noises, but nausea, headaches, and vertigo, as well as possible brain tissue injury. The beams, he added, could be fired covertly, hitting only the intended target. Imagine that. Microwave weapons are prime suspect in ills of U.S. Embassy workers. New York Times. Sonic attack scare before Trump-Kim summit raises concern. New York Post, 2018. Microwave weapons are prime suspect. Microwave weapons suspected in attacks on U.S. diplomats. Blah blah blah. Anyway, a literal secret weapon is hurting U.S. diplomats abroad. What is it? And I'm just naming some of the links that you can click, and I got a trove of information in this video right here. And if you go to this link, neurological symptoms among U.S. diplomats in Cuba. Okay, U.S. diplomats in Berlin, Vienna, 2021. Vienna is a new Havana syndrome hotspot. Roughly two dozen possible new cases have been reported by U.S. spies and diplomats in Austrian capital, more than any other city except Havana itself. U.S. officials in Germany hit by Havana syndrome. That happened in 2021. Microwave weapon cause brain network disorder or electromagnetic hypersensitivity in U.S. and Canadian diplomats. Evidence of brain injuries by diffusion tensor imaging MRI. NBC News reports in the fall of 2018 the U.S. officials suspected Russian involvement in the microwave weapon attacks on their embassy staff in Cuba and China. They also reported that diffusion tensor imaging MRI scans of Catherine Warner and her mother Laura Hughes show brain injury in form of white matter lesions or brain network disorder. These appear similar to third MRI scans of people with microwave sickness. The NAS report of December 2020, an assessment of illness in U.S. government employees and their families. Havana syndrome likely occurred. The NAS allegedly asserted there are many mechanisms for radio frequency radiation, non-thermobiological effects. These effects reportedly included known as electrosensitivity symptoms, headaches, nausea, dizziness, fatigue, anxiety, memory loss, cognitive upsets, along with the Frey hearing effect of 1961, or tinnitus. They were apparently not the result of psychological factors, since they seem to be caused by injury to the central nervous system. And of course, defeating microwave weapons. Reports find microwave weapons energy likely made diplomats fall ill. We all know this one already. All right, so that's a bunch more links. You can come with a lot more information. Okay, attempt to deny electrosensitivity attacks. Lovelorn crickets. Some attempts have been made to deny the scientific and medical findings, especially the third fMRI showing brain damage, which is not consistent with acoustic injury, in an attempt to deny that electromagnetic warfare was not involved in Cuba and China. One hypothesis was that the damage was caused by intermodulation of two eavesdropping ultrasound beams. Another hypothesis was the extraordinary claim that these electrosensitive effects can be produced by cricket insect, although there's no evidence over the last 80 years of research since electrosensitivity was first described in 1932 that crickets can produce the same adverse health effects as electromagnetic radiation energy. It's more likely that the recording of the crickets was not the cause of specific electrosensitivity symptoms. Both Foster and Sample have previously denied hundreds of scientific papers showing electrosensitivity and other harmful effects from instant Wi-Fi radiation in cell phones. There's more links right there. Continued ES microwave attacks. Adam Intus are U.S. officials under silent attack. The New Yorker, May 24, 2021. Traumatic brain injury. Since the year 2000, it's reported that 408,000 U.S. troops have suffered traumatic brain injury in the Middle East. Symptoms include headaches, dizziness, sensitivity to light, nausea. Symptoms can take time to manifest. The Iranian attack of January 8, 2020 on a U.S. base caused over 100 cases of traumatic brain injury. And I'm just going to read a few of these. Pentagon says 34 soldiers suffered traumatic brain injury in Iran. That's The Guardian, January 24, 2020. More than 100 troops suffered traumatic brain injury in Iran. Strike. Trump downplays brain injury suffered by U.S. troops in Iran missile strike. Guardian, January 22nd, 2020. Recent developments in microwave warfare. Let's see. Hack satellites. I'm just going to read a couple of these, and you can go to this link yourself and read a lot of these things. Thousands in China exposed to mind control technology seek answer. The Epic Times in 2019. Hack satellite symptoms could launch microwave attacks, experts warn in The Guardian. Okay, Blackstone body worn, TDOA symptoms. China's new microwave weapon can disable missiles and paralyze tanks. Pentagon fears that deadly microwave weapons are undetectable. The biotechnology revolution is here, and so are the superhuman soldiers of war. Washington State Fusion Center accidentally releases records on remote mind control. In recent wars, most armies now deploy electronic warfare units which aim to create specific electrosensitivity symptoms in the enemy to confuse, disorientate, or debilitate them. During recent wars in places like Iraq, some troops have been withdrawn when they begin to suffer from electrosensitivity. Before the main engagements with explosive electronic radiation was used to disorientate enemy personnel by creating typical specific electrosensitivity symptoms in them. And that's why if you've turned if you got electrosensitivity from weapons abuse, being abused by weapons, you'll notice when you go in a room with no electricity, you feel a lot better than when you're around all this stuff plugged in, because all this stuff plugged in lets off electromagnetic fields too, not just weapons. China's People Liberation used microwave weapons to drive Indian troops from two hilltops in the Laka region, Himalayas, according to Jim Canron, professor of international relations at Renmin University, based in Beijing. In 15 minutes, those occupying the hilltops all began to vomit. They couldn't stand up, so they fled. Imagine that. And he's got a link backing this up. Geomagnetic warfare, geoterrorism, tectonic warfare. The combination of technology and electronics. Tektronix, as described in '68, National Security Advisor by National Security Advisor to President Jimmy Carter, allows malevolent governments to increasingly control covertly both geomagnetic events, global warming, earthquakes, also increasingly to control human psychological cognitive processes. Thus, the political emphasis on carbon-caused global warming can be seen in part as an attempt to hide covert geomagnetic interference causing global warming, along with unusual weather-related events. Such geomagnetic events can apparently be manipulated to exert pressure on governments reluctant to accept a superpower's political hegemony. The Tetratonic era involved the gradual appearance of more controlled society, dominated by elite, unrestrained by traditional values. This elite would not hesitate to achieve its political ends by using the latest modern techniques for influencing public behavior. In addition, it may be possible and tempting to exploit, for strategic political purposes, the fruits of research on the brain and on human behavior. And again, it's got links that you can click with where they got all this stuff from. Let's see. Shielding and protection. People with electrosensitivity often use protective silver netting, manufactured originally for military use, to shield themselves from radiation from cell phones, Wi-Fi, and towers. Much of the industry, as well as the military and individuals, now wish to shield themselves from electromagnetic attack. And there's a link to that. Electromagnetic warfare is here. Okay, and there's a Stop 007 by that's Catherine Horton's link. Okay, U.S. DARPA research into pilots' electrosensitivity. In 2020, after several losses of U.S. aircraft, including reports of pilot disorientation and loss of situation awareness, DARPA announced its Iceman project to investigate electrosensitivity among pilots in high-tech cockpits. Number 2, electromagnetic weapons. Indiscriminate pulse microwave weapons. Some governments deploy electromagnetic devices both against enemy forces and against parts of their own civilian population. These tend to be indiscriminate, harming all people and animals within range. They produce typical, specific electrosensitivity symptoms. High altitude electromagnetic pulse, or HEMP. Very powerful devices, like high altitude electromagnetic pulse, aim to disable all electronic equipment installations over a wide area. Smaller scale microwave energy weapons can cause painful burning sensations or other injuries in the paths of the beam, or can be fatal. They would likely impact hospital equipment and implanted cardiac pacemakers, rendering such weapons as subversive to human rights under several categories. There's a link there. He's backing everything up in this thing with links. Millimeter wave weapons. Weapons using millimeter electromagnetic waves to cause unbearable heat and skin pain, among other effects, have been developed. Indiscriminate mass attack weapons like ray guns and active denial use pulse radiation. Run away, the ray gun is coming. We test U.S. Army's new secret weapon, the Daily Mail. There's 2 more links to that. Covert pulse radiation from towers and mobile units has been used by some governments to control selected sections of their civilian populations, especially through disablement, disorientation, or in the long term through neurological illnesses and cancer. The use of electromagnetic radiation from Wi-Fi and cell phone in public areas such as hospitals, schools, and other public areas act in the same way as indiscriminate electromagnetic weaponry against people who are highly sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. Some people are more sensitive to others. Direct energy weapons. For claimed use of direct energy weapons by China, Russia, and USA, see, and it's got 3 links there. Directed energy weapon beam shooting from California, Malheur National Refuge. There's links there. Laser weapons systems. The U.S. Navy's planning to deploy high-energy laser weapons. This is known as directed energy. It can be used defensively and offensively. Individually targeted electromagnetic weapons. Individual electric assault weapons or conducted electric weapons like a taser use wired barbs electrode to electrify a person and create severe muscular reactions. Some countries regard stun guns or tasers as instrument of torture. Portable microwave devices like cell phones or tablets can act like electromagnetic weapons against the individual person highly sensitive to them, producing typical electrosensitivity symptoms which the World Health Organization states can be disabling. There's an increased evidence that agencies and networks allegedly linked to some governments are illegally using microwave weapons against targeted individuals. There's more links here. Okay, proposed mind control interference, Lilly waves and psychotronic warfare. John C. Lilly, 1915 to 2001, developed a balanced biphasic electric pulse pair, the Lilly wave, to push ions in the neuron in first one direction, then the other, stimulating the neuron. Previous waveforms used in neurophysiology and neurosurgery injured the neurons, which, when unidirectional current passed through the brain. This stimulates the neurons of the brain to resonate at a certain frequency. Thus, the Lilly waves has the ability to control the brainwave patterns of the brain. And it gives a thing from 1955. Similar effects are used in transcranial altering current stimulation with electrodes attached to the skull. It can produce retinal phosphenes. Direct current applications have become common and present challenges. These symptoms and EEG can now be controlled by commercial devices using wireless links. Many people, of course, are sensitive to low-level electromagnetic exposure and can experience similar adverse effects from environmental ambient radiation. It's been claimed the Lilly wave can also make the brain's water molecules resonate at a desired frequency, thus causing the electrons that form the brain's electrical voltages to also resonate the same frequency using electromagnetic and acoustic waves. The Lilly wave can entrain blood sugar and iron with neuron cellular structure when the molecule is targeted by a wave resonating the same frequency as the molecule, leading to the molecule's explosion. For sugar molecules or crystals, the triomblescence releases an electromagnetic charge, creating extreme confusion, dizziness, and lack of awareness or apathy. The Lilly wave frequency has allegedly been used as a military application known as the madness frequency. The Los Angeles riots are said to have been the first open test of its capacity to mass control anger and violent response from the mob. The Lilly wave can also entrain the brain and blood's iron molecules, causing the iron to condense together via resonant attraction and clump within the brain, causing the iron to be magnetized and rush to the top of your head. This results in a rush of blood to the head and extreme confusion and dizziness. It can also be reversed, causing a draining of blood from the head, leading to unconsciousness. There's evidence that magnetic stimulation and cell phone signals can affect the brain glucose metabolism in the brain, perhaps supporting evidence for this form of warfare. Um, there's links here: total individual control technology, currently deployed psychotronic mind control technologies, secret and silent frequency wars, all kinds of good links here. Uh, Weather modification. Hostile military weather modification with severe effects is banned under the United Nations Convention of 1976. Some states or groups, however, considered or experimented weather modification, climate change, geoengineering, tectonic weapons, and putting satellites with offensive capabilities into orbit. Um, that just gives the laws there against weather modification and using weather as a weapon. And you see there's a lot of links on that. Cybersecurity of active devices, security and privacy issues in implantable medical devices. Cybersecurity for medical device manufacturers, ensuring safety and functionality. Surveillance using EM electromagnetic exposures. Moon the balloon protests. Pentagon testing mass surveillance balloons across the U.S. See covert radar cybersecurity using military waves. We can read this one. Covert military millimeter wave radar radiation at 75 to 100 gigahertz, together with artificial intelligence identification and recognition systems, has been developed for use in scanning people for weapons. The millimeter wave radar threat level evaluation system makes 3,000 scans a second using radiation similar to airport scanners. Airport scanners are designed for single brief transit. Covert security is designed to work all the time. An airport scan lasts in a few seconds, reaches only about 1/10 of the limit recommended by the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. If RPS scans members of the public, exposure would not be controlled in the same way. Individuals sitting on benches or taking a cigarette break might remain within the test area for many minutes and be exposed to millions of scans. There was a request for authority to perform a demonstration of this test of the system in California in 2018 and reports of trials in Seattle in 2018. These frequencies have been little tested for safety, either theoretically or from radiation devices in use. It's known these frequencies can have very serious effects on the eyes, optical nerves, and genomic stability. The guidelines are designed for only short-term heating. Based on Swan's mistake in 1953, these do not protect against long-term and low-level biological effects, such as those caused by induced currents from radiating magnetic fields. Evlog technology uses 24 to 30 gigahertz. It applied for testing at DHS's Transportation Security Laboratory in New Jersey and FBI headquarters, Quantico, Virginia. And I'll be doing a video on that soon. I've just been gathering information on that slowly. It's about a system that is in place everywhere, and it's how it's how they lock on to gang stalkers and how they lock onto you everywhere you go. Uh, it started out as an airport thing and it's moved into some. Well, I'm not going to get into that on this episode, but I will talk about that because it's very important. I've been trying to figure out how to present it to you. European Parliament in 1999, European Parliament issued a statement on legal aspects of military activities, and it's just a bunch. I'm not going to read all that. Let's see. So there's more sonic weapons, long-range acoustic devices. There's links to that. Further information. There's more. There's a lot more good information in there. Um, and so make sure you follow the link I share in my description and read it for yourself. Um, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen right now. Well, hold on. Let me see if I. Let's see. Let's see. What is ES? Oh, I'm trying to see. Uh, why EHS is no fairy tale. Electrosensitivity. So if you're around a lot of electronics and you notice when you unplug a lot of stuff that it you feel better, you're probably electrosensitive, and a lot of people are that's been hit with these weapons over and over and over. It creates this electromagnetic sensitivity. See, it says it's primarily an intolerance, not a disease. There's no known virus or bacteria associated with electrosensitivity. And you, like I read earlier, it the the damage it causes depends on what kind of metals are in the body. Impairments or symptoms can be delayed. Some are asymptomatic, even though their body still reacts to electromagnetic exposure and all that. I'm going to put the link where you can see for yourself. I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. I am filling up to about 60 to 70% now, and hopefully we'll keep getting better and better. However, I am experiencing heavy V2K 24/7, but doing my best to deal with that as well. So anyway, I hope I didn't bore you with all my reading. I've just found that very interesting. And this link is for anybody. I'll put it in the description. You may have to get Telegram to download this link. I mean, to access this link, you may have to go to Telegram, and if so, it's worth it because it proves all the history and everything of these weapons and how they're being used. So anyway, God bless all TIs and non-TIs watching this video.